That's true. I think so.
Oh, no.
That's a real question.
Yeah, gonna call a meeting order there. Yep, everyone, Brady and, is not here, everyone else is here. And my alarm was also called out. We have a 6:30, land bank meeting as well. It is 6 o'clock. Welcome everyone to the November 27th business meeting in the city of Smith Center. We have Dave on the phone, Brady's not here, and we have the November 13th meeting's minutes in front of us. Has everybody had a chance to read those minutes? Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? If not, we go on to our vouchers and receipts. Has everybody had a chance to approve our vouchers and receipts? Any additions or corrections? If not, I need a motion to approve the November 13th meeting minutes, pay the bills, and the receipts. Need a second? Second. Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes and pay the bills and the receipts. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries. And I guess this evening, Dennis, you may have the floor. You have our audit report for 22.
Yes. I told them that since you have the 6:30 meeting, I would be done by 7.
Or 9.
Okay. Anyway, we'll start with this as we're going through it. Just stop and ask questions as we go through here. That's best time to ask them as we're going. We'll start on page 1. It says the audit report was done in accordance with the Kansas Municipal Audit Accounting Guide, and was performed in accordance with the general accepted accounting principles and the auditing standards of the society of the profession. It does say it's an adverse opinion according to the generally accepted accounting principles, because this is a regulatory style report. If this was a generally accepted accounting report, it would be about 3 times thicker. So you definitely don't like to read that. And so in the regulatory basis of accounting is much easier to understand and work with, and it shows it's in compliance with that presentation. And in accordance with that, we have a clean or unqualified opinion, which is the type of opinion you want with this style of report. On page 4, it starts with the schedule is probably the most important schedule of the entire report. This shows beginning unencumbered cash at the beginning of the year, receipts, expenditures, ending unencumbered cash, add back payments and encumbrances, and end up with actual cash at the end of the year. Now, the term unencumbered cash is something that's very rarely used. What that really means is that it's cash after all identifiable obligations of the city in each respective fund has been identified and subtracted out. So, of course, accounts payable is your normal utility bills, etc., that come in every month. The encumbrances are an obligation to pay even though the product or service has not yet been rendered. So a good example of that is if you was to order a new backhoe today, and knowing good well you wouldn't receive it until February, March, it's recorded as a liability today. You know, if it was approved tonight to be ordered, it would be an encumbrance of the city and would be subtracted off against the funds that would be paying for it down the road. So what we call it's a very hardcore available cash to spend definition when we talk about unencumbered cash balances. Overall for the year, when you take into account the airport grant fund, which is money that's been spent and yet not been reimbursed by the state of Kansas, along with the 281 project, those funds, if they were paid for and they've been reimbursed, your cash balances would have improved some this year. So you're in a good position for where you want to be. On page 8, number 2, compliance with Kansas statutes. There's only one item that's identified, and that the fund encumbrance records were not maintained as required at the year end. We do recommend that identifiable payables and encumbrances that are an obligation of the city at year end be identified at year end, and it normally is not done. We're getting better, but it's still got a ways to go. On page 9, interfund transfers number 5. This is monies that have been transferred between funds of the city. And normally is a check's not written, it's just approved and the journal entry is recorded. On page 12, capital projects in process. There's 3 of them: the FAA project, the US 281 and 204 projects. Subsequent events. The only one we have is the city signed a water pollution revolving fund loan agreement with Kansas Department of Health and Environment. And in this is the interest rate will be 2.13%, which is still very good. And maturity date of 2044. So that's obviously 20 years from now. And the principal amount after some forgiven principal will be about $762,000. So it's a very good loan. You're getting part of it paid for. On page 13 shows your committed obligations at year end. We had one with Kansas Public Water with KDHE, which is a Kansas Public Water Supply loan, and that pays off in 35. And we have the Water Pollution Control loan, and that is paid off in 27. So it's getting close. And then you have a capital lease, which is paid for on an annual basis to the bank on a fire truck. So those are the obligations. Outstanding obligations at the end of the year are about $2.9 million. On page 14 is your economic development revolving loan fund. And as I've said several years in a row, you guys do a good job. Whoever does the approving of the loans does a very good job of approving them. You have very few defaults. And and I've seen some cities have approved loans and money's gone very quickly with defaults. So you're setting in good shape and obviously helping the economic downtown environment or community environment by approving those. Over on page 15 is to show the compliance with the budget law. And over on the very right-hand side, if you have a positive number, the positive number means you had a budget violation. There are no positive numbers, so therefore you had no budget violation. So you met the budget requirements for the year. Starting on page 16 is the general fund. Now you have a variation between actual and budget, and on the revenue side, it's not a big issue. On the revenue side, it's more of just a comparison point. On the expenditure side is where the state does monitor, and basically you will have, if you have a positive number in a singular line item, that means that line item was you spent more than budgeted. But realize when you approve a budget, you're approving expenditures up to 18 months in advance. And so there's times you're going to miss it, whether other events can mess that up. So they realize that, and so what they do is if you do overexpend on a line item, you can, as long as you cut back in another line item, your overall fund is safe. And as you can see on page 18, your receipts over expenditures was 17,000, and you had budget room of 486,000 that you did not spend. On page 19 is your industrial development fund. You have a tax levy for this, and again, same answer. You basically didn't spend much of your fund, which is good, and your total receipts over expenditures was 400. Library fund on page 20 is a fund that you're basically a conduit. You do levy the taxes, you do collect the property taxes that are issued by the county to the city, but then you turn around and basically use that for personnel services for the library. But basically, you're a conduit because you're simply levying the taxes for the library and then effectively covering their expenses for them. Rec fund on page 21 is, of course, your city rec commission, and on this, you pretty well break even in most years. And as you can see, you did have a slight increase, but pretty much a break-even fund year after year. Special street and highway on page 22 is the expenditures in this fund are similar or basically identical to what you would spend through street department or the general fund. It makes no difference. One year you can put asphalt on some of your roads or streets to condition and charge it to the general fund. Right, next year you can do the same thing to some different set of streets and charge it against special street and highway. Both are perfectly okay. The source of the money is every time you buy gas anywhere in the state of Kansas, a certain percentage point is assigned to most municipalities, cities, counties in the state, and you get a certain percentage of that, and that's refunded to you on an annual basis. And that's what that is showing here is that you did collect a little bit more than budgeted for the special highway tax, and then of course it's used for street projects. Special park and rec is a fund that the source of the money is every time you go to a bar, somebody buys a drink, there's a special tax on that. That tax is split into three pieces. 1/3 goes to the county sheriff's office for alcohol, drug abuse programs, evaluations, etc. The rest of it, 1/3 goes to the general fund of the city, and 1/3 goes to the special parks and rec. Of course, the money in here can be used for recreational as well as any other purpose for park purposes, lawnmowers, maintenance items, whatever, in the parks and rec area. On page 24, the employee benefit fund is a fund where you have no control over the expenditures. If the federal government or Congress passes an increase in Social Security, you're going to have to stand for it, and you will have to levy taxes to cover that. Workman's comp, obviously, if you have a claim that impacts your workman's comp policy, the retirement state of Kansas has been adjusting that a little bit over the last 5 years. And so, again, they change it, you pay for it. So this fund is separated out from the other expenditures, the other funds, because these are monies that you have no say on how it's to be spent. Somebody else does. On page 25, Equipment Reserve Fund, money basically comes from transfers from other funds. When a fund has some extra money available to it, and at the discretion of the council and the clerk, you want to kind of reserve it back to the city, you can do that by transferring it from that fund, which in this case last year was the waste disposal fund, into the equipment reserve fund. Once the money comes into this fund, however, it loses its source. The money this year was coming in from waste disposal, but if you have a capital equipment reserve equipment purchase, let's say you want to buy a fire engine or you was wanting to buy police car, whatever, you can do that because this is now becomes a city fund, not a fund of any specific fund. So it's overall city, you can use it for whatever equipment you might need. So it's a very available fund. The Economic Development Fund on page 26, of course, you have a sales tax levy that you collect for economic development, and that reflects that. The extra money that's building up in there could be used for, in many cases, many cities will use it for, you have a company come to town, they have some utility connections, maybe having to run special lines, whatever. A lot of times they will use that for that purpose or for other reasons to help the business get off the ground as well as to attract them to come to Smith Center anyway. And your economic development revolving loan fund on 27 is that fund we talked about earlier. And where you loan the money out and then collect the proceeds back as the time goes on. Some of these other funds I'll kind of skip. They're starting to get pretty small. On page 30, you have a partially self-funded health insurance where the city, instead of paying quite so much to an insurance company, you basically create a fund for larger expenditures that you might cover for a major health issue. And that's what this fund has done, but it allows you to cheapen up your health insurance quite a bit. Your ARPA fund on page 31, you have until the end of 2024 to spend the money. So it's not something you can sit there and let it go for 5 years. If you don't spend it by the end of next year, it will be have to be returned to federal government. So what's that? Basically, it's pretty liberal.
Are they projects that we have? Are we good?
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of, you see, most cities are using it for projects, a few of them use it for personnel. I think a lot of them use for infrastructure uses. But there is a set of list, and if you obviously want a specific item, you want to see if an item that you want to spend the money for, but Jill can't find it for you, we can find it just to what.
We have around 1.9 for last year.
No, because we haven't started that project yet. But you did the.
What project we went through?
A lot of cities did hold the money back so they could identify the projects to spend, and they had, knowing full well they had to the end of 24. There will be a few cities that go to sleep on that. But hopefully that doesn't happen here. First airport grant funds, get state and federal grants for that. And on this one, you do spend the money before they reimburse you, and that's what that's indicating.
That's why we're negative.
Yes, and there's no issue on that. That's, the statutes do specifically allow for that. Of course, the state does that, so they can be a little slow about paying.
So this reflects back on our carryover cash.
That is correct. So if that had been paid for, you could look at it as a receivable, is really what you look at.
Right. And receivable as much as we had in carryover.
Mhm. So, some of those are not paid until you pretty well wrap up the project. Community project funds, on this one is, you have some donations, et cetera. I can't think some examples on that, but you're building up a pretty good reserve on that. The next page is on page 34 is your 281 project, same issue. You encumbered, you basically didn't really do much of the work. You just pretty well got a contract signed that made it an encumbrance, and that shows as an expenditure. And again, you'll be reimbursed down the road for that.
That's part of that cash too.
So you had almost $600,000 of money you spent out that you didn't get to see back on at the time.
Expenditure approved, anything financial. It comes off on my schedule. Each month.
Okay, on 36, 37 is your water fund. And on this, you collected 100,000 more than you spent, of which you did transfer 2 out of there, one the general fund, one the water improvement fund. And you still have $100,000 more collected than you spent. Of course, I understand you are working on a new pipeline that's gonna be suck up a lot of that. So anyway. And the water improvement fund, of course, should be part of that pipeline. Airport, on this one is, just the receipts and your big, income, a lot of times is your fuel sales that you have. And then, of course, you maintain the airport up there. Golf course is pretty much a break-even fund year after year. Waste disposal, you do have a small decrease in fund balance, but at the same time, your, equipment reserve, part of that would be $500,000 out to build your equipment reserve. So you had a good year there. And that's a quick run through. Is there any questions? It does take a motion to approve the item report as presented.
Council, do you have any questions about the audit report? Dennis? Dave, do you have any questions? John, do you have anything? Chris?
I think I ask this every year, but is there anything, red flags?
No, actually, it looks like you're doing two things. You're improving the city on several projects and still maintaining your cash flow, which is very good. It's good news.
Tracy, you have any questions? I need a motion to approve the 2022 audit report.
So moved. Second.
We move and second it to approve the 22 audit report. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. Appreciate it. As always, if something does come up, you got a question, you can give me a call or have Joe give me a call, whichever. And we do have one other little report that's required to give to you in writing. That's some comments about the accounting system. That's a little extra schedule I gave here. Number one will always be there unless you really grow. And example, I was involved with a municipal, or actually a foundation, and they took that off after they had 7 accounts on staff. So that tells you how many it probably takes to have some significant level of segregation of duties in order to remove that. Number 2, as we talked about earlier, is that we'd like a complete set of fund encumbrances and payables at the end of the year. It's something we just strongly recommend. Not a live and die thing.
We've added that to the schedule.
What's that?
We've added that to the schedule.
On the next to last page, we have a couple comments. The first one, for some reason, the health insurance and payroll liability payments are not being, some of them being withheld from people's paychecks, et cetera, then of course as a match. And they're not being allocated the same as the other payroll withholding, such as the federal income tax and social security, et cetera. And it's making funds not balance out correctly. So we're recommending that software company be contacted and see if they can help you figure out how to make that work right. And the last one is the flex spending account is not included in the bank reconciliation, and it should be because it is actually part of the city's cash. It should be recognized. Jill's.
But I'm responsible for it. In the office.
So we do,
Literally.
it's one of those things we identify things that we've spotted and pass it on.
And we added that in December of last year. So it was for a 1 month period. That wasn't something I thought already know about prior to.
So these are, and if you look, the last 2 comments were very end, which tells you that the importance is not being contributed. It's just something that should be worked on. So any other questions? If not, well, thank you very much, and I know you have another meeting starting in a few minutes.
Thank you.
I think that's be through December. But I want to get something done before the new year starts, so it'll start the new year. And this is kind of a summary of what we put together. The department heads, or full-time employees, department heads, then you have the police, and you have your hourly. It's a simple guide.
This is a suggestion.
Things in the draft. Just something we can go by.
Now, our employees punch a clock, right?
I'm not sure how.
All those
On the shop guys.
shop guys do.
A lot of them have a written sheet, they have a written sheet, has a written sheet, hourly. For the most part, have a written sheet, because we don't have mowers anymore.
Correct me, if the shop guys are punching a clock, we're not hourly, we're not paid by an hourly rate, right? So why do we punch a clock? If this is what their monthly salary is going to be.
Yes, for whatever-
Based on salary. Yeah, they're hourly based on salary. We have a base salary wage that's paid out each period, and less time is used, and you have to subtract from it. So it technically can be considered a salary, but it is under an hourly based.
And so when they do.
So these figures might not be the same every month.
Correct. Most of the time they are.
Yeah, assuming a full.
And another thing is when we do snow removal or breaks after hour type things, that's how comp time is based. Is on how much time they turn into.
Okay, what are they? Okay,
They get 1.5 hours for every hour they work.
okay, at what rate? Whatever their hourly
Their
rate is?
hourly rate or
Whatever.
time, equivalent time off.
Okay.
And most of them will take it as time off. Sometimes they'll ask for 10 hours, 15 hours to be paid out. Which we do try, we have it capped at 80 hours. So that it's the engine that's there a lot of times, they'll either use it or ask for a payout as part of it.
And also, Don, we use our time cards as vacation days off, keeping track for the girls to keep the books right. We take a day off, we write it down, sick a day, we write it down on our time cards. So that's, I mean, otherwise, I don't know how they'd ever keep track of all that.
And we've been, before we've done this, I'm talking 20 years ago, we get called on our audit report. You need to keep track of these guys' time. So, this is stuff that we cleaned up. This is how we cleaned it up over the years.
And they do go through all of our time cards.
To
We have to
match.
have those boxed separately so they are able to go through each one of them. And us specifically in the office, they don't miss a week, they go through every single one.
So this is a suggestion I put together, threw it together, just to try to help clean the thing up. We can talk about it, I want you guys to review it. I went out to different employers, across the community here. And what people were talking about, starting wages with major employers 3 years ago at $12 an hour, and now they're at 18 for the same position, same qualification. So things have changed in the last few years. And I think with the Applequest Manufacturing, Sunforge, Hospital competitions and out of town, we need to maintain a good pace to keep up with the times. So I just threw this together. I want everybody to review it. We'll talk about it. I'm gonna put it back on the agenda for next meeting.
You have a figure on how that affects the total salary schedule?
Have not yet, have not. This is just something I threw together today to get something to look at, try to simplify the schedule. If you're a department head, it's basically your office help. Everybody that is a department head, such as Jill, Ariel, Trader, they're all department heads. So you get one category, and anybody else that's a full-time employee. So, police is different. When it comes to our hourly workers. So I just lump it all together. Swimming pool, summer help, pumpers, whoever we put it. As this hourly time is $10 a day. So if you want to write the dollar bills on there, get that last column. So anyway, this is just something that we, just a starting point, we can take it how we want, but I just need to look at it for next meeting to, see what you think. And I'll, have Jill, I'll go through the impact and have it ready for next month. And that's all I have to say about that. We can move on to our land bank meeting, which is 6:30. And we're pretty close to that, I believe. It is 6:30. So we need a motion to go into a recess to do our land bank meeting. One motion for recess. Dave got a motion for recess. Need a second. Been moved and seconded to go into recess for our land bank meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. I'm going to call the order to the land bank meeting, City of Smith Center, 6:30. November 27th. Who has the agenda?
It'll be super quick, I promise. I just wanted to talk about, the tax sale, and Nick just purchased 619 South Lincoln. I didn't know if you wanted to talk
Yeah,
about
no,
that.
we've got one
So-
property secured in the land bank, for the tax sale. The one on South Lincoln Street, it's an empty lot. We've had, I've had two people reach out directly to me, and I told them they should go through the process, but have already reached out and interested in that property, doing something with it. I think one of them wanted to build something, which sounds interesting, and then the other one just wanted to use it for a fruit garden, or a garden area, which I thought was less interesting. I told them it wasn't in the spirit of the land bank, but we would still take their application, so. Yeah, so we don't really have anything else on it yet, we're just accepting, or just getting the people that are interested in taking that property.
Are you going to write up a little commitment letter for whoever you're going, are you giving away salad or what?
Well, we haven't even talked about that yet. Our intent, or what I talked about with the one individual that approached me about it, was buying it from the land bank.
Okay.
We didn't discuss any prices or anything. In total, we paid, including the filing fees, $238 for that piece of ground. And we had talked about in the past, both through the housing committee and then even with this board here, selling those properties, even at a small fee, just again, keep some skin in the game for the people, also generate some revenue for the land bank, that we could replenish or grow the funds there to do more projects like this. So again, as those discussions, I guess, ramp up, it would be our intent to try to sell it for at least some sort of profit.
Well, once it's in the land bank, they have to then follow all of the
Correct.
steps.
So they have a
within the land bank.
developer, so if you purchase the property from the land bank, then you would enter into a developer agreement with the land bank, the City of Smith Center. And that would effectively say, hey, you got to tell us what you're doing here, when you're going to be completed, and you have I can't remember if it's 12-month or 15-month window. Yeah, it depends on the proposal. But there's a window, a period of time that if they're not doing any development or if their development stalls out, then the land bank can take that property back from that person and give it to somebody else. In fact, we're going through that process I think, right now.
Is that the agenda for 200 East Kansas and 209 South Main?
Yes, yeah. I was trying to think
Yes.
of it. Yes,
Basically the same.
Yeah.
For any of
Same
those
thing.
that we have assessments on, we're taking those assessments that are charged on.
209 South.
Not those two. The one on that 619, we have a couple thousand assessments on, taking it down. But that's one that's forgiven when it goes in the land bank, then we forget those assessments on it.
209 South Main, get get their letter?
Yes.
Any backlash?
He returned the keys and,
No backlash?
no backlash at
Peaceful
all.
surrender.
No, yeah,
Okay.
so,
I haven't heard anything. so-
yeah, I sent him a certified letter and, so, yeah, he returned the keys today. I left a message, so.
So we have that one back in the bank and then
Yes, and
the one
then
house that we're,
200 East Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
is the one that's
yeah,
gonna be
and
turned over.
both of those have been put in the paper. For sealed
Have you
bids.
got it jotted down, any background talking points on these properties, what you want to cover?
As far as like what we want to, offer to the people,
Well,
or how the, like, here's what it is.
Yeah, here's what it is, we will do X if you do X, X, X.
We haven't, because we've been looking, I think, up to this point for people to give us proposals and us to, and not necessarily the land bank.
We don't negotiate.
Yeah, but put restrictions out there, things like that. I mean, it's just-
So a potential buyer will offer a proposal. That proposal comes to you as the land bank board to consider. And then you will select the winning proposal.
Right. So it is open, but we don't have any guidelines, if that's what you're asking, like, hey, here's a property and here's what we'd like to see you do with it.
Yeah.
No, we don't have anything specific that I'm aware of like that, other than just, conversations that we have that aren't interested.
Okay.
But because there could be complexities to certain projects too, I mean, I'm thinking about the developer in mind on the property we just acquired. And, there may be things that they want to ask the city to do, in the way of infrastructure development, like curb and gutter or land sewer or water lines and things like that. So we want all those things to be on the table for a developer to bring to us. And you know what? If we don't have, even if somebody wanted to do something that's real obscure, like they wanted to do an orchard, hey, it doesn't create housing. That's what we'd like to see more of, is housing. But if it doesn't create housing, tell us how it's going to benefit the community.
How would that be zoned? Does that have to be zoned agricultural?
I don't know on that particular zoning. That would be probably a question for the zoning board. I mean, it's certainly within the city limits. And so I think it depends on the type of activity that you're going to be doing there. If it was simply a garden or a community garden, I don't think there would be a lot of red tape to cut through. If they were going to do something like on a commercial level of like apple production or something, you know what I mean? Then it probably would require some zoning that we want to look at, or the city would want to look at.
On 200 East Main, I think it would help if we'd have all the growth around that property trimmed up. Is that something you guys could do, Rick?
What are we talking about?
Yeah, what?
It's the, you can walk the road, you
Oh,
can-
there is no East Main Street. I'm not sure.
200 East Kansas.
Okay, good. Good, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, we can to a certain extent. I don't know about the big trees.
Well, I wouldn't worry about them so much, but just get
So you can see the house.
just so you
Yeah.
can see the thing.
There's some really big overgrown evergreen bushes.
Yeah.
Get those out of there, that house, you could see the front of the house.
If we can help do that to help show it.
But, if you need to use, there's still some money in the land bank account. So if you want to, you could get bids from people to cut down the trees if the city guys don't do it.
Well,
We'll take them down to a certain size. I'm just not comfortable. We're not tree trimmers.
Exactly.
Guys up in the buckets.
let's let these guys go through it once and see where they end up, and we can take a bid off of the list.
I think that'd be a good idea. So, yeah, Rick, if you guys want to go by there sometime and look at it.
I already looked at it. I'm just waiting for the go ahead. We already discussed it when we looked at it. We can take probably 90% of that garbage out of there.
I think it would be a good idea too, that if your guys do stuff like that, is to at least communicate to like Dana or somebody, like, hey, we were here for X amount of hours, had this many guys working on it. So we kind of keep track of the time and the expense that's into it. I think that is compelling then for whether we're reselling the property or just audit purposes in general. So we kind of keep track of what is actually being spent on this property. It's not just a awesome black hole.
I've got a spreadsheet. use for emergency. I think we
That'd be
have to
good, yeah, if you
respond
wanna add a
emergency
line item to
for
that
health.
existing spreadsheet or something, that'd be great, yeah. Just, again, I think just accountability for everybody.
Is there anything else?
That's all I have.
No action required. Comments, council? Tracy? No, okay.
How
I think
often
I'll-
does the land bank have to meet? Is there a requirement?
Dave, Bob, for me.
Just whenever?
Whenever, once a year is the requirement.
Okay,
Required to meet at least once a year.
okay.
I can't hear what.
But to answer your question a little bit more, there's a housing committee that's a subcommittee of the economic development. And so that housing committee, I think, is kind of doing a lot of things that are prodding the land bank and stuff. So I think that we'll utilize that group to be the vehicle to notate whenever.
Yeah, absolutely. The only reason I asked that question was, do we need to schedule another land bank?
Yeah.
Because we have to, get notice, that sort of thing. So I was just asking for like the city council perspective, do we need another one on the books?
Right, yeah. I can't think of any immediate action items that be part of that right now.
Excellent.
Maybe,
You'll let us know.
yeah. We'll tell you guys what we did later.
There you go. All right, I need a motion to adjourn the land bank meeting. So we've moved and seconded to adjourn the land bank meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. I'm gonna call, motion carried. I'm gonna call the business meeting City of Smith Center back in order. We're out of our other meeting. Our next item of business is cereal malt beverage licenses for
I would ask that these be tabled to the next meeting. In history, we were able to give them to Chief Marshall and he was able to take them up and run the background check. However, he was recently informed that they no longer do the background check, so I contacted KBI. They charge $20 per check, however, they have waived that fee for us. I set up an account so that we're able to use it because we have less than a dozen a year. So they are willing to do it at no fee, but I prefer to go through the motions before we get these approved, and they need a little time to run those checks.
Is that waiver, just for this initial one or forever?
Because we had to qualify on
Mhm.
certain bullet points, and we were able to do that. So I asked if we could do a motion and a second in order to table that to the next meeting.
Okay, I need a motion to table the cereal malt beverages till the next meeting is done.
Yes, they should have it by the end of this week, but just to make sure.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, it's been moved and seconded to, table the cereal malt beverage licenses. The first meeting in December. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Motion carries. All right, that concludes our items of business. We'll go on to our department. Economic development, you have the floor. You look like you have a busy schedule.
I do have stuff from Julie's able to present that one. She wanted to attend, but she didn't have anybody to cover her when she brought it this morning.
Program applications, Julie Zabel applied for a residential revitalization grant application for 601 West Court for up to $3,000. The grant will be used for a replacement of a furnace and air conditioner. The board denied that due to that the homeowner will be the only beneficiary and that there's no community benefit to this application.
Their information in their package she brought in. a letter for you.
Do you have programs that go on residential houses?
We don't specifically, okay, we do and we don't. And so this is where we've had I wouldn't say a flood, we've had some people that pressed the line with recent requests. And essentially, we've purposely pulled the programs back to be more broad and consolidate them to be more easily understood by people. The thing that has gotten trippy for people is that they see that we will lend money or help people or grant money for people that are making material improvements to their property. And specifically, I don't have the document in front of me, but I think it says something to the effect of creates housing, raises the tax base, and something else like otherwise improves the community.
Those are the parameters of the program.
Right. So we purposely left them pretty big and general so that we can help programs. But what we don't do, or the reason why, like in particular, this application got denied is because there was no material benefit to the community. There was they weren't creating more housing. They weren't improving their existing house structure or property to raise the tax base. This was simply
It's a maintenance item.
it's a maintenance item, exactly. It was going to make, in their application, they said it was going to make their home more efficient, make their bills easier, great. And there wasn't a lot of discussion. Yeah, it was just a shutdown.
Now, this stuff on page 2 am I missing something here?
That's what just brought into the office.
Yeah, I mean, is this stuff that Julie came up with?
These are all the ones that have been come to you guys.
Okay, for example, Fay Brewer, 616 South Max, water heater, water softener, garage door, paint, flooring.
Because she was improving a vacant property.
Okay, that's why,
It was
that's
a
why
vacant,
something's missing
dilapidated
here.
house, an
Yeah, okay.
uninhabitable house that they were making happen.
But she doesn't live here, right?
She was going to.
She's moving into that house so that she can rent her current.
Yeah, and then her existing home will become a rental.
Okay.
And so that was where our committee looked at it and said, okay, we can get behind this, because you are creating a new house that's gonna have a higher tax base itself that you're gonna move into, and you're freeing up a house that you're gonna create for a rental opportunity for somebody else.
This is where some of it may need defined more on your application, because like the appraiser's office, it's, Anna, when we were talking about the sidewalks, it explained where the sidewalks don't initially themselves raise taxes, but they do raise the overall property taxes for that person. The same as the tree removal or anything of that nature, where it's not by itself, but her example was pull into two identical properties. You're pulling into a gravel driveway on one and a concrete driveway on the other. They're gonna value the concrete driveway higher, even though the driveway itself isn't one of their
And
check
so,
marks.
yeah, no, but you bring up a good point that with that,
So
because
it
this
might
is
be
also a
something to
distinction.
define.
Yeah, the distinction there too is that we've talked to people about is, there's a difference in your market, an improvement in the market value of your home and the assessment value of your home. We don't care if it makes a market value improvement. We don't care if you made a nicer house that you can sell to somebody else. We care if the tax assessor is gonna come through there and go, yep, that's an improvement that will raise the taxes. So the improvements need to fall within that zone of the tax assessor is going to levy a higher tax amount on the property.
Stay away from the maintenance side.
Well, that's where if you listed some of those things, because in their case, they do consider sidewalks, tree removal and all that as raising the property tax as a whole. Probably not a lot.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. And
but
I
then
think
if
that
you
if
had
there
those
was,
bullet points, then maybe in the applications, you could better check mark those.
sure, yeah. No, we can take a look at it and review it. It is pretty explicit, like in the very top line of that application.
So what about on the second page that Don was just speaking of, there's a few awarded grants regarding removal of trees and shrubs. On 1, 2, 3, 4. Is there more to the, are these all rented houses? personal homes. Do we know the rest of the story on this?
Let me see, is it there? So these are the grant awarded, these are grant awarded. Okay. In some of them, yes, so there's a, these guys were getting a house, set up for rental, to become a rental. It was a dilapidated house that was gonna be tore down. Yeah, some of this was just overgrowth. I mean, some of this was to create an improvement on the property so that something could be done with it, like, I know Steve Boards, they were taking those trees down to put up a garage. I mean, they're just, it's a very subjective thing.
Julie, what's wrong with this tree that she wants out?
Yeah, it's probably been a while, because that was the first application, she said, was for a tree, or a couple trees or something, and they're screwing over the water line. And another,
Well, a
do
lot
you
of
know
it-
anything about that? A water line or something else?
There's one here on South Madison. Water hand, water softener, drugstore, paint store. Just looks like that's all Mason.
Well, but that's why I asked.
Yeah, and again, as long as there's something where they're they're taking an old house that needs to be made habitable, then we would mostly approve those. If it's something that's just, hey, I'd like to do this, in my house, then it's just maintenance. But there are maintenance things that need to be done to some of these houses to get them rentable, and that's where most of those are.
But that's not a resident, that's a commercial property.
It could be, but that's our program. We have a commercial property and a residential property revitalization program. Yeah. We just generally look at the commercial stuff as like your buildings and stuff. The residential, even if it's going to be used for commercial purpose, like a rental or a duplex or apartment, we would still call it residential because just the zone, it just goes off the zone.
When I refer to residential, it's owner occupied.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
what I call it,
sure.
residential.
Sure.
It's owner occupied. If you're gonna own a house and rent it, I call it
Sure.
commercial rental.
Sure. Yeah. And some people do. We just go off of zoning. Yeah.
But technically it's a residential,
Right. Like
renter occupied
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
like the Willow Tree Apartments.
But these programs that come in here that look like they're owner occupied housing as maintenance,
Right.
I have a problem.
Yeah. And we
So-
do too.
Just so that I understand, for example, you said that this 303 Elm that was it's the most comparable to this applicant's tree removed, right? And it says grind out and remove tree stumps, but the reason that the board approved that is because he was putting a new building.
Yeah, they
up
were
there.
cleaning up property to put on a new building.
Yeah.
Actually, they were originally gonna make it a residence. There was a trailer house that was behind all those trees that was growing up. And so their thought was to do that and get that habitable to make it as a rental. And then they got into it and they said this thing was too far gone. But we're not gonna do that and we don't want to renege on what we said we're gonna do. So we're gonna build a garage here instead, at least have something that the county can tax us on. But it's a to me, it sounds like a weird line, like the way you guys are saying it. But like when we look at applications, it's pretty nice day, about what our expectations are. And that certainly goes back to in this conversation is what can we do more to clarify these parameters? I think that's what I'm hearing too. So I do agree with that 100%.
But I also think we have to remember the whole impetus behind redoing the programs with economic development was the economic development plan that outlined specific goals for those investments.
Yeah.
And so if we're not using the programs that we're funding to pursue those goals, then we shouldn't have developed the goals.
Right.
Right? So every year we're looking at those goals to make sure that our programs align with where those goals we want the goals to take.
And our goals right now are housing and recruitment, which is evident by the departments that we created. Okay.
What else did you have?
Okay. All right, Galen Lambert presented his commercial property revitalization grant for 101 South Main. for up to $1,652.33. This grant will be used for 2 new doors to the inside passageway, providing security to tenants on both sides of the building.
You mind if I jump in? So basically what Galen was asking for or what this grant was, is to create a doorway between where Centerfire was and the Goheen Slavic accounting firm is now. If you were in there before, it was just an open passageway. And so what we're doing is helping with the cost to make that to bipartisan that off. And that way we can have the renter on the one side and then they can hopefully get another renter on the other side. And then you mind if I just jump in?
No, go ahead.
So then the last one we had here was Slavic and Goheen Jumpstart Grant. And so that's the tenant then that parlays right in with Lambert's request here. So they have already occupied or begun occupying that 101 South Main property. And so then we just gave them the normal Jumpstart Grant that we typically do. New business.
On item 2, we need to, all the documentation for Galen's in order.
Yep.
Board approved.
Yes.
Questions, council? Need a motion to approve the 165233.
Second.
Then move second to approve the commercial property revitalization for 101 South Main, 165233. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried.
Okay, and then the next one was the Slavic and Goheen Jumpstart Grant. And Jumpstart Grant is a traditional grant program we've had to give $5,000 or up to $5,000 for new businesses coming to town.
Questions, council? Documentation all in order. Dave, you want to make a motion to approve? I will do that. Need a second. Second. Then moving second to approve the Jumpstart Grant for Slavic Goheen. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried.
Okay. You want me to carry on? Okay, then get into our committee reports. One more?
Oh, yeah, we have Chris Lindeman.
Oh, I forgot about
Yeah.
that. Yeah, shoot.
He's
Um,
putting up a garage.
Yep. Same thing. So this is a residential property, an individual residential owner, not creating a rental, but he is putting up a garage building, or going to construct a garage building. And so it was our board's recommendation to give them the funds for that.
Up to 3,000
Yeah, up to 3,000 on
for
that.
his residential property revitalization.
And he's putting up a
Even-
shop building or something.
I thought it was a garage.
With our tax structure in this community, we'll get our money back.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, to me, it's no brainer, you know. But it's all, you know, to me though, the biggest thing I hear from people is like, I don't want to make this improvement to my house because my taxes are going to go up, and I don't want to do this and this. So this is, in my opinion, a really good program because at least it gives a bone to people and says, do it, just do it. You know, yes, you're going to pay a lot more in taxes going forward, but we want people to build and we want people to refurbish and we want people to be incentivized to do these things and not just look at them as negatives.
Documentation paperwork in order on this one. Council questions? Chris? Dave? I need a motion to approve. Need a second? Then move and seconded to approve the 220 East
Okay, that's all.
First Street, I believe. All those in favor say aye.
Okay.
Motion carried.
Yeah.
Okay, next, committee reports, the Smith County recruitment team, is in search of a marketing partner, and they have chosen Everly Studios from Copper City. The team decided to select Everly Studios as they were more in touch with the rural lifestyle and more visual storytelling. The total cost of the first year is $50,000 to include a website with 20 responsive pages, video production, for promotion materials and contact, and I'm gonna let Dana go into more detail with this. The board did approve it
After a lot of
after
discussion.
a lot
I
of
will say.
discussion, yes, yes.
It's a hefty bill.
So,
So it is a hefty bill, and it directly answers the number one concern for our businesses is attracting workforce. The committee has considered a lot of different options for what we can do. In conversation with some of our largest employers, they say some of their challenges in attracting workforce is letting people know what it would be like to live in this area if they accepted a job. The job market is so quick that they really don't have a lot of videos or tools to share what it's like living in this county, in Smith County and area. And so we put together a request and did a bidding process for a marketing partner who can help us with this sort of material that can be used by businesses recruiting workers. And so the upfront costs for a marketing partner are substantial. There is a large investment in developing the plan and developing kind of the storyline and developing the videos that could be used. So this first year is higher than a lot of projects that economic development does. The committee has recommended that this marketing partner project be one of be the project that is included in my advisory contract so that I would be the liaison with the marketing partner as they develop this. Galen's on the committee and he can explain more if you'd like, but the way the committee voted is that there would be a deposit down on that $50,000 of $5,000, and then each project would be paid for as it comes through. There is
And I do want to say one thing, sorry to interrupt you, about the budget though, because I know everybody's probably spoiling right now. We had set aside money for housing to what we thought was going to be a big housing project that we were going to be involved with that was going to require a lot of capital. So we had set aside this money last year in our budget planning. And we did not and probably are not going to be able to use it for that project. So this was something that was already within our budget too. And it was something that we talked about and said, okay, we're not trying to add on money here. This is something we had budgeted out for another thing, and that thing just didn't come to fruition. So we're going to reallocate those funds to this project. So I just wanted to say that about this because I know it's like such a big
Do
thing.
you have any ideas, when I see the total cost of the project for the first year, then it's red flags all over my.
Sure.
What the maintenance cost of this project is gonna be down the road for second year?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Like, I don't know if you guys have this sheet in there. This is the, okay, this is the outline of the costs. And so like $7,500 is what they call a discovery and onboarding. So that's just $7,500 for them to sit down and learn about Smith Center. Website design was $9,700. That is not a cost we will pay every year. So once they design that website, it's built, and then we're just paying cost to maintain that site, which is probably more in the realm of like $500 a year, I would guess.
the
You know, after
hosting
that,
is $650,
yeah,
and then there'll be some
maintenance stuff.
page maintenance on
Yeah.
top of that. But
Yeah, oh yeah. 60 right there.
Um,
Video production was 20,000. That's a big chunk of it right there. Just creating the content then for this series of things. And
But
the
can you
photography.
lock him down as to what maintenance year you're gonna be?
Say that again.
Can you lock this guy down on what maintenance year you're gonna be?
Like how much is going to be every
So
year after that?
we can set that budget,
Yeah.
right? So that's totally within our control. What is currently,
The only one where really would be long-term committed to is $650 a year. The $650 a year would be the main one.
but generally, marketing materials, ongoing things on a project like this would be $5,000 to $10,000.
Yeah, big picture.
It depends on how much ad space you buy, right? Like whether you do Google ads or YouTube ads, whether you go ahead and put it on a television station somewhere. That's kind of where those ongoing costs come. As we're going to use it right now, I would suspect that we would want to have a YouTube page that our businesses could then access the videos and the materials that they will then send to potential applicants for their jobs.
And and I wasn't in these meetings, but these guys did interview multiple companies and they were all in the same range, like budget range.
We had
And
3 proposals. We interviewed 2, and this was the committee selection.
yeah, the other one was Next Tech, like going directly to Next Tech. And I think the discussion was more about these guys were just more in tune with it than Next Tech being a little bit more just corporate, pumping out the same
Advertising.
stuff. Yeah, they weren't really that interested in being a partner, I don't think, big picture.
So what's
That's
next,
just mine.
what's next Tech's involvement? Our list here is, it says they and Next Tech creative pitch their marketing presentation, so it's Next Tech.
To both of
Two
them,
separate pictures.
both of
Yeah.
them.
Oh,
did.
Yeah, it was 2 different,
Okay.
yeah, 2 different, that was, they interviewed 2 different groups that way. What are you guys' concerns? I know the cost.
Well, I know these things start up, costs are expensive. What do you heard my concern? What
The ongoing.
the ongoing part of this thing, because if you don't have an ongoing part, you just turn 50 into dust.
Right.
Mhm.
And we could choose not to, I mean, really, like, just as a theoretical or a hypothetical, say you spent 50,000, we created this campaign, series of videos, all this content, right? Like, we would own that stuff. We could choose to say, hey, we don't even care. We don't want to do this. We don't want to have a website. I mean, that is something that we could choose to do at the end of this 1-year term. We could just say, hey, we don't even like you guys. We're going a totally different direction. So this doesn't commit us to anything long-term.
Well, I know it don't commit you to anything long term, but then again, you gotta have something you can take with you.
And we do, we would have all that content. It's video. I mean, those would be on YouTube. Like,
Yeah.
that's what Dana was saying about a
And we
YouTube
could move the
page.
website hosting,
Yep.
you know, all of that content is ours.
Yeah.
And would be owned by the city of Smith Center. We could just find another person or another people to do the hosting and the maintenance.
And that would just be for the website. Again, all the content, the
Placement.
videos that have already been produced, all that kind of stuff would be there. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the videos that the hospital's been doing, the hospital video series.
Yes,
So
I have.
that's the same group. They would be similar, very similar to that type of style, a storytelling style
Yeah.
is what it would be.
Downs uses some,
Yeah.
I see a lot of downs.
Yeah.
Beloit is Mitchell County and Beloit is starting to do quite a bit of it. Cortland is starting to do some more video, you know, that's the way a lot of promotion is going, whether it's TikTok, a short video, or it's something a little longer.
And I take it there'll be a way with the online stuff that we'll be able to monitor the reactions.
You can track, yeah, you can
Correct.
track user content or user, what people are spending time with.
Right.
Yeah.
Clicks and time and all of those, there's, I think, monthly reporting built into the proposals.
Several years ago, there was a video made back, I don't know, several years, probably 10 years ago, of people around Smith Center, they were all waving. And that had a lot of positive reaction.
Right.
Well, the one at the theaters,
And that one was done by the Commission Visitors Bureau. And, you know, a lot of people have recognized there are pieces of these videos that we could potentially redo or update. But then there's news stories that we need to capture as well.
And the trick is,
Keep it updated, but also it's like, you know, I really like this storytelling angle because everybody's gotta come to our place. It's the best, right? Like, it's pretty janky, in my opinion. It doesn't sell me anything. If I'm from Wisconsin and I'm thinking about moving here to work at the hospital and I want to know what Smith Center's like, it's hard for me to get onto the website and go, okay, well, they got a police station and they got I don't really get any information about who are the neighbors, like what are the type of people they're going to be like, what are we doing on Friday nights? We going to the ball game? Like, that's the kind of storytelling that we want to be able to convey with this type of a marketing campaign. And the creativity that goes beyond that is just, or goes into that is just really, it's very encapsulating, you know. I mean, like I said, I've seen the videos that the hospital does, and I'm pretty enamored by them, to be quite frank. But it's not like something too where I think that our expectation is that we're going to stick a website out there and all of a sudden tons of people are going to move to our town. It's
used.
that would be great, but it's also used. It's a toolbox that's there for anybody that wants to sell Smith Center to a potential friend, family member, a potential employee, a manufacturing company, like whatever. Like it's a way that we can sell our city to people that are outside of the city.
Chris, you know, this is the first time hearing this, so from citizen level whole interpretation of this is actually something that in some groups and things that I belong to, it's funny that this is coming up now because I literally was just watching podcasts about people moving around the country, and they were talking about realtors utilizing something like this and interviewing hospitals and stuff like that as they show a home. And you're able to be like, hey, just check out this video. I mean, I questioned like who uses it along the way, and I could see it just having, even for me, right, somebody calls and it's like, well, what's this there? Like, shoot the link to, look up our website or shoot the link to YouTube, and an in-depth kind of what.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great point though, because that's something as a realtor, I would use that nonstop. You know.
Council, what's your thoughts?
Is there, I've assumed we've looked, is there any kind of financial assistance to make this happen? Other than,
Like grants, you mean? I don't know.
There are some tourism development grants, but I think this would be a little more generalized
Right.
Than what those grant opportunities are specific towards.
Does the CB board have anything?
The Convention and Visitors Bureau,
Yeah, do they have any money at all?
they have very little money. They have about $11,000 in the bank. We need a hotel that generates transient tax for them to actually have some money to contribute.
You know, we're getting our heinous kicked by the neighboring town. 2016, 15, they were generating in excess of $20,000 instead of the same as ours. Yeah.
So this is one piece in the economic development puzzle to start getting some materials developed for our workforce attraction. But there are other pieces that the rest of the
Most marketing your whole community.
funds can be used for.
Thanks, good deal.
Dave, you got any comments on it? You hear all of it? They take that as a no. No? You? He's still there.
Look, I would say this too, guys. Like, it's expensive. Like, I was shocked when I saw the initial thing come across for our board meeting. But then the more I started looking at it, and then I started thinking about just in my own profession how much money I spend on advertising. I thought this is a drop in the bucket for a town like this. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that to minimize it. I just mean to it helped me validate it. Like, once I got the initial sticker shock wore off, I could easily validate this thing all day long. You know, and so I just bring that up because I was in the same spot. I think you guys are right now too. It's just kind of a shell shock of the price tag and not putting any emphasis into what does it do for us.
Well, we've got $500,000 in the economic development fund that we need to be using. It
Yeah.
needs to be developing the economy.
That's right.
And
Not just
this
sitting
is a project that can help with that.
Yeah.
do you think the hospital spent this kind of money for what they're doing?
Yeah,
More.
they spent a lot more than that. It is. It just costs money. I mean, it just costs money to do this kind of stuff.
Just money.
Yeah.
That's why,
It's just money.
that's why your office calls not $15.
No, I know we can reach some people that want to work into this town, it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
We can hire the position I think the hospital hired a physician.
Yeah, she
specifically
worked,
for
she
this.
worked with,
Yeah.
Coach Drop.
Yeah.
She's good.
But I mean, it's just like anything else. I mean, this is recruitment. The lifeblood of our community is getting people into the community or keeping them here, and so, I think we're doing a lot of good things to keep people here. We need to get people here too.
We need to get them someplace to live.
We've got houses on the market.
Yeah.
We've got houses under development. We need that
One of them
demand
put on
to
the
be
market
coming.
this week. All right, any more comments, council?
I think it's very positive, really do.
Dave, you heard any of this? And Chris, comment?
I just hope we, utilize any kind of funding out there that's, make sure we look at every option, make sure we can not get some assistance with this, but I would assume not, but.
Well, I think if we was to ask anyone, we could ask our own commissioners if they would form anything at all.
Sure.
But,
And
I think we ought to handle it ourselves.
that would be true, the county would be at least an option to visit with, because it's gonna help them as much or more.
Yeah.
Than us. And, I would assume the video content is what is gonna burn up the funding, correct?
Yeah, the video content is a big chunk of that budget. 20,000 of the 50,000.
And that's basically old ones it's published. I mean, it's current for a while, but,
Yeah,
and so I don't think you're ever gonna get done with that,
right.
right?
Sure.
I mean, you're gonna want to put a new video out.
Yeah. And that may be the case, but a single video isn't going to cost 20 grand though either. I mean, it might cost.
Price is concerned about $600 a year. I don't
Right.
think it's gonna be,
Right.
No,
Sure. Sure.
I think it's,
It will be, yeah. But you know what? If that's the case and it's working,
it's right. If it's, right.
yeah. If we're doing it and it's not working, then it's not good.
Every now and then I revisit Marilyn's video.
Right.
Just amazing how much change.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
downtown or the people.
look at the businesses that were in place at that time and the age of some of the employees that were in that video, you would think it was 30 years ago, because
Right.
nothing's the same.
Right.
Everything's different.
Yeah. No, I think Dana said it best. I mean, we've got $500,000 that we're sitting on and we just need to do something with it or give it back to the people,
I like the idea. Like I said, if I do it was a guarantee, that's right on over. So everybody else, yeah.
There's nothing.
I like to see things happen.
Me too. I would like to have a motion to approve this project for the economic recruitment team, County recruitment team.
So moved.
Thank you, second. Been moved and seconded. I want to do a roll call vote on this. Don?
Yes.
Chris? Tracy? Dave, did you hear me? You do? Motion carried.
Can we pitch this to the commissioners like,
Yeah, we'll take it to them. I mean, we can take it to them. See, my only fear with that, and this is just me speaking as a person, not as a board. That's like you lose some control over it, then they got, well, we can put money in it and we get to say what goes on in it. And that's fine. I mean, as long as it's a collaborative thing.
Well, I would ask, necessarily ask for all of it.
Right. Sure.
Portion of it,
Yeah, we will. Absolutely, we will.
Soften the blow, but, I would think it's been very beneficial if they know what we're doing.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Give them the opportunity.
Yep.
We have.
But I agree.
For the airport. So, tie it all together.
Right.
Do you have, more action items?
Yes, there's a couple more. There's for the director position. I did not accept the position and I am resigning December 29th. And so The board has directed me to advertise the director position in the Pioneer SCDE Facebook page and Connect Northwest Kansas. They would like to set a,
We want to set a budget, we want to set a
Budget,
range.
thank you.
So we want to set a
Range.
salary range of 35 to 47. And that's just to be
Okay, range.
competitive. And so that doesn't mean everybody that comes in, we're going to automatically give them the top. We just want to have the ability to recruit good people. If they're not, they don't have a pedigree or experience, then they're not going to get the top end of that budget, or that salary. So it's just that simple. I know you guys are having a lot of salary discussions yourselves, so. We'll kind of coattail off of you guys and watch what you do.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
I understand.
But it would be a department head position, obviously, and then, yeah, we would just, so we've got that advertised, I think, out there in some places already. But yeah, we'll just be soliciting a new director. Dana's gonna thankfully stay on, in a part-time capacity with us until the end of the year. And then, of course, Dana, other Dana, is on as a consultant for the next year as well. So we've got, I feel like we're in a place where a lot better than we were in prior administrations when we had a turnover in director, and then, you know, somebody like me ends up being the de facto director. I feel like we're in a good space because of that. And we've also made a ton of headway this year in just reorganizing and getting ourselves a direction and processes and procedures. And so a lot of things that Dana and Dana both have done this year have been really incredible to getting us to the point where we're going to be able to hire somebody.
We don't need that in the motion, we just need that as consent council.
For resignation, you need the motion. The other, you don't need a consent. Or you just.
Not for the pay.
Consent,
not for
but,
the pay range.
no, that could just
Not
go
for the
consent.
recruitment.
Yeah, we're just recruiting at this point. I mean, we're going to come to you guys, obviously, with any,
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
I think we do have a consent council for that.
right.
For the resignation, we need to have a motion for that.
I would like, when you make the decision to hire someone, before you throw a salary at them, would you talk to us?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's, again, we're just going to be discussing a range. And you guys are certainly welcome. We can make you guys aware of any interviews we have too. We're welcome anybody else to get on those interviews. The more the merrier as far as I'm concerned with that stuff. So.
Need a motion to accept the resignation. Motion dies.
Sorry, Dana. Sorry.
You're alive. You're here, you're alive for like the rest.
I'll make that.
Been moved and seconded to accept David's resignation December 31.
Okay, and lastly, Heritage Townhomes. We are very close to getting 312B occupied. There are 2 more units that, one is coming open the end of this month, and then another unit will be open the end of December. And so we need the board approved to the rental rates of $450 because we have to keep on it low for HUD standard, and $600 for the other unit. From here on out. Oh, they don't? Okay. Okay, we'll never.
But we are trying to raise the rents at Heritage Townhomes,
Oh, there you go.
to get into step with other similar type. Yeah. Because we were notified last year, half a year ago, about the audit that we were grossly under the expectations of the supervisory board that sits over that. So. And then one more thing, you guys might have already talked about this. I just wanted to bring this up as we were here, but I think Bryce, you probably got a copy of this, but the CDBG grants, I just thought it was interesting to note and bring it up that, I mean, almost $142,000 getting pumped into businesses in our community. That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. So I appreciate the council and everybody's support on that too. So anything else for us?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
Had a few people at my house for Thanksgiving, and I was asked where the nearest charging station was.
Electric car charging
Yes.
station. Yeah.
I think that's something we
Yeah.
need to pursue.
That is something we actually, I think, were we talking about that in the last council?
I'm on it, if you guys want it, I'll hand it over. but
Yeah.
I've been in
Yeah,
contact
yeah,
with that
Jill's
company
talked to him.
Okay.
to Get things going.
Yeah. Because it seems like with that discussion, it
Same
came
with
up a
the
little bit.
hotel. I started that about 5 years ago, but nobody wanted to
Right.
roll with it.
right?
So
Yeah.
I do have all the stuff that somebody wants.
Well, yeah, and the hotel stuff, I was around for some of those discussions as well, and I just remember it all kind of getting dumped because the hotel owners got really mad at how we had
That's
everybody
kind
over.
of what happened. They've done pretty well.
Yeah, no. But the charging station thing, yeah, that's interesting because we were just talking about it because I know I sold a lot from a real estate standpoint. I sold a lot in Concordia a couple months ago for $120,000, just an empty lot, and that's what they were going to do with it.
Well, I think that's the closest one.
Yeah, probably so. Hayes.
And that's so grand.
Hey,
Do it in combination. And the full dealership.
Cause I know I've had family come through and they stopped in Salina. They were going to Denver and had to drop down to Hayes. And then hit 70 so they could have charging stations more available. So there's
KDOT,
gotta be people changing routes because of that.
KDOT has prioritized the interstate systems, Highway 81 and 183 as the EV designated routes. And they have bipartisan infrastructure law funding to put those charging stations in. There will be a second round because of that federal law, and it will take about 5 years before we can get to US highways.
There are a couple of the companies though that are willing to
That's something.
cover those expenses.
That's
The
cool.
one I
Yeah,
worked
Is that all
with
you had, Tom?
on there, so something of interest.
That would be good. Yeah, if you want to share that, that would definitely be something we could take up.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else got anything? Questions, comments? Feedback, positive, negative?
Jamie, do you have anything to bring for the council?
No, I do not.
Anybody have anything for Jamie, Tracy? Dawn?
Nope.
Rick, what do you have to bring for the council?
So the main pump at the golf course, runs our irrigation system, shot cracks. It was rebuilt in 2020. I've got a quote to rebuild it, which I suggest we wait till early spring to do it. The quote to rebuild is $4,500 or $4,550. The quote for a brand new one is $21,824.70. I suggest we rebuild it just because of the fact that these pumps are only gonna last a couple to, 2 to 4 years pumping sewer water. We can rebuild a pump several times before it's gonna cost a new one. I don't think a new one, it's proven that I put a new one in at the sewer ponds that pumps the water to the golf course every 3 years.
Is that one that we put it out here to avoid?
We just put that in this spring. That was brand new this spring. But I suggest that we do the rebuild and like I said, we wait till spring so we don't have a pump sitting here that's using warranty up on it for 7 months.
Consensus of the council? Dawn?
Good.
Chris? Tracy?
I just wait till we eat it.
Yeah, and then we're done. We're all winterized out there, so there's.
But make sure you call them and tell them we want the price you quoted us today.
And I'm not.
Not
sure how
6
long
months,
it-
because
how
I'm gonna
long
tell
it-
you right now.
And the other thing is the high service pumps at the water plant. He doesn't have a quote, he just wanted me to bring it up to you, but we're gonna do the work ourselves, the mechanical seals are going out of it.
Yeah, Ron called me.
We don't wanna wear the shafts down. We'll ruin it because then you're talking the tens of thousands of dollars to replace those pumps, so it's not gonna be much money. They're just mechanical seals and we're gonna do the work.
Hey, I lost you, we're just going through. Anybody have anything for Rick, Tracy? Chris? Dawn?
Nope.
Thanks, Rick. Jill, do you have anything to bring for the council?
I do. Interview Lynn True this afternoon for a driver position at General Public Transportation. he was quite interested and decided to join the team. If you so choose to hire him, we do have one driver that will no longer be hired. And we will still need to most likely add an additional driver after this position, as we should be doing it in one of these days soon. So my first item would be to ask for your approval to hire Lynn and Patrick.
Questions, council? Nope. Second. Move second. Hire Lynn.
At the first wage, which is $11 right now.
Yep.
Right.
That's what it is.
Well, that's correct right now.
The current. We're working on January 1.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Secondly, this information, I emailed all of this to Dawn as the department head, but we have a transition that is out in our program, which is a 2019, and it is not under warranty anymore. We are responsible for 20% of those repairs. We of course pay them in full and ask for reimbursement from KDOT as we do with everything else. It is scheduled, the guys are gonna haul it over for us on a trailer to Wilkesburg at the end of this week, so at the beginning of next week, I have to submit that to KDOT for approval before I can move forward. So at this point, I have no dollar amounts.
DGNS out of Hastings.
I can't use Nebraska as a KDOT vehicle. There are only certain people that are approved through the state that as vendors.
Yeah, you'd add it tomorrow morning.
That program,
2 days.
that program is 5311, and so we are limited on who, what, when, and where.
DGNS, Lebanon,
Yeah.
So that's a little information
All right.
there, so you know where we are. We were up again this last year, about 1,000 guys.
Okay.
So we're still kicking it, but we are also still accepting donations, to help support our Ride Connect program, which is the program that allows riders to apply to travel for half cost.
Anybody have anything for Jill? Tracy? Don, Chris? Dave, you have anything for Jill?
I do have one question for Joe. On this report, Joelle, so I would, just so I understand, so the first heading, treasurer, the range, that's the range of every employee in that office?
Not counting salary and elected personnel, so not Vernon, not Melissa. I don't believe her,
The range is
it's
that.
hourly employees.
It's like that with everybody.
I don't know why she didn't supply the others, but I was happy to get that in short.
Ariel, do you have anything to bring for the council?
I do not.
Anybody have anything for Ariel? Don?
Nope.
Chris, Dave? Nope. Dave? No. Tabitha, do you have anything to bring for the council?
Do not. We're waiting on a survey to be completed at the property site for the lagoons. That's where we are.
Oh, on that deal. Okay. Anybody have any questions for Tracy?
No.
I have a question.
No, you can still do that later.
Please address all of your questions for me to Tracy.
Dave, do you have anything for Tabitha? No, I do not. Chris? No. Excellent.
Thanks.
Dave, do you have anything to bring for the council?
No, I don't.
Don?
Nope.
John? Tracy?
No.
Chris?
The dump truck that we purchased, Rick, I think, everything's good and we're up to snuff is what we thought it was. So the dump truck turned out okay.
Did you sell the other one?
No, we have not.
I think they've been kind of trying to cherry pick which one, so there's pros problem with
We
both
got
of
a
them.
little problem with the one we weren't gonna sell, so we're getting some information, because we don't really know too much about it. We've been getting some information on what it's gonna cost to fix it, if we wanna switch our minds on what we're gonna sell, and trying to get the best tires. We're gonna do some tire changing, get the best tires on a new one, and
They ordered 7 of those and saved you $5,000 on that, by the way. You're welcome. I heard you.
And regarding the Everly project, you know, I don't know how these other guys feel, but, you know, a lot of times with ED, once we kind of approve something, we kind of let it go and assume it's all taken care of, and just assume that everything's good. Being that we're talking about this kind of money, I hope I'm not speaking for everybody out of turn, but can we stay informed of where we're at with this and keep it in front of us and know what was spent? And kind of, is there any way we can see the content or pass it along so we can,
I would agree with that.
we can help sell this, because there might be some questions on that amount of money. And I agree with it 100%, because it's a problem with recruiting people in this town, like in this small little town. But just so we got some backing on what we're doing, so we know what's going on.
Would you like that to you as individuals or through Jill as city council?
I think through the council.
I think through council.
Just so we all know what's going on.
One counts, because you can get everybody at one time.
I don't know how these other guys feel, but sometimes I feel like we approve something, we just assume it's good and it goes away and all is well. And that's great, that's why you guys are there, but something like this is, it's a pretty big deal for us. We can see what's going on.
I'd be happy to keep you updated on the 141,000 CBD grant.
Yep.
I've gotten quite a bit on that. Have they gotten to the part of dolling it out yet, since we were shorted that little bit? I don't think so. I haven't seen that yet.
What I have bring for the council, the next meeting, Chris, you'll need to run. the first meeting in December. We'll have-
And I will not be here first meeting.
Dave will be, you will be here first meeting, Dave.
Yeah, I will be.
Okay.
And at that first meeting, we'll need, if you guys want to start thinking on a date for a special meeting for the end of December. Because we won't have a second meeting, but at the first meeting, we'll set that date. So if you want to take a look at your calendar.
Before you guys get too far down the road, before your next meeting, I'll have something to do on this scale to show you the impact of what's going on. And if you give me my comments later. Anything else needs to be brought for the council?
we can have a Christmas party.
Oh, yes, and
Well-
I directed Rick Heilman to the city Christmas party.
You got it. You care if it's like after the first year, like we normally do, 'cause it's so hard to get everybody together during the holidays. Okay,
Never Santa Costa.
Rick Heilman is in charge of the city Christmas party.
great fish.
I don't know.
All right.
You can eat.
Oh, we got some.
Whatever, I'll tell you, last year was awful good.
Anyway, I have nothing else for the council. I need a motion to adjourn.
Some of it's
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. Thank you, everyone. Motion carried. Thanks, Dave. You bet. Right.
It's good, it's good to know that you guys are not.
Oh, I know, so. I don't know. It wasn't.
I know, that's right. Most people would just accept the, you know, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
someone get a shake.
Sorry, no.
Get that in.
Got her?